Thank you very much. Это у нас первая лекция насчет воспитания детей. Бежат Ашем. Мы пригласили для этого Rabbi Field. Он будет делать где-то 4 или 5 лекций с нуля до возраста тинейджерс и так далее. Воспитание детей. Это очень-очень важно. Окей? Пожалуйста, мы с аплодисментами пригласили Rabbi Field. For our community, for our kids, потому что наши дети это наше самое главное, которое у нас есть. Да? Very important. Наши дети это самое главное. Нету детей, воспитания нету, значит будущего народа нету, будущего, дай Бог, поколения нету. Поэтому thank you very much for appreciate. We appreciate for what you do for our community. Many kids go to Torah day school, Baruch Hashem. We
Graduates.
We hope that every year we want to see there many Bukharian kids there. Bezat Hashem. Ashkenazi too. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And please, Rabbi, we need you blessing to
Yes, I have my lesson. First thing, Rishus the rabbis, Rabbi Baruch, for having me here. Thank you very much. To everyone that came tonight. Everyone here obviously cares because it's not easy to come out on a Sunday night. You know, all of you have children, so that means that you have babysitters. That's also not easy. So, shout out to all of you for just making the step to come tonight. And then obviously a big bracha to the Baturo family for opening their house. And we say, anybody who does for the community in faith. Amen. Simcha, bracha, nachas, and we should have just the Shema tonight together to work together. Okay, so let me start by saying my goal tonight, is that you walk out of this room and you say, I'm a different person than I was when we started. Okay? I want everyone in here to say, I'm a different person tonight. In the next few minutes that we have together, I want to change your life. That's what I want to do. That's my goal. If I'll be successful or not, you'll let me know at the end, okay? Now, what the process is, they told me I'd have a few slots. So the first slot, I'm not going to address parenting directly. I'm going to discuss something a little bit related to parenting, but not specifically parenting, which you'll see in a minute. And then we'll start to get into parenting, and then parenting at different age levels. And I'm happy to take questions at the end, so if anybody has a burning question they wanted to address tonight that I didn't address, I'm happy to do that. And then you can also give me feedback for what you want to hear. I'll be here for the next slide of Mitzvah Shem, for the next time to speak. So, let's get started. The other thing I wanted to share with everybody is that... Yeah. You want me to just stand still? How much I have, like a... here? You have a paper in front of you. You don't need it right away. But what I do like to do is no one can sit and listen to somebody for 45 minutes. Okay, so we want to take a little time to take some of the information and inculcate it as part of us. And I want to get everyone thinking tonight. That's the idea. I want to break through maybe some things that we thought from before that we didn't realize, and I want everyone to think tonight. And you're welcome to ask questions. I'll try to talk slow. I like to usually get fast and I go quick, but I'm going to try to go slow. Raise your hand if you have any questions, okay? So I'm going to start off tonight by saying my uncle, Rabbi Mordechai Yaffe, lives in the Five Towns, and he has a yeshiva in the Five Towns. And in the summer, it gets hot there, so they have like the backyard over here, and they put an above-ground pool in their backyard. Well, one day, all of a sudden, the above-ground pool just got sucked into the ground. And half the family was in the pool. Baruch Hashem, everyone was okay. What they found out later on was that they built the foundation of the house on some type of landfill, and there was space underneath, so the weight of the pool broke through, and it broke all the way through. And I started off with that because we need to start off with a foundation that is firm and strong. If we want to be good parents, then we have to be good people. And we have to start with that foundation. The first foundation that we have to work on, and the predicate that I want to begin with tonight is, who are we? We have to look at ourselves for a minute, because that's going to be the place that we're going to be the best parents from. Is the best example that we can be for our own children. So, tonight, some things that I want to make sure that you walk away with is, we're going to talk about what it means to be growth-oriented, to constantly wanting to be growing and moving. We're never staying in the same place. I want to talk about the question that we might not think about enough. Why are we here in this world? What did Hashem put us here for? And then finally, how we can lead by example and set goals for ourselves. So, the first place we always look. The Mashgiach from Panovich came in, he used to give a shmooze, a drasha once a week. He brings a box. He puts the box on the stender. This is in the 1940s. And it's a blender. He comes in front of the whole yeshiva and he puts this box. He says, I received this as a gift today. I came to my house and my wife was very upset. She got this gift and she didn't know how to use it. They never saw a blender before. So I came and I said, well, were there any instructions that came with it? So she said, yeah, but they're in English and I don't read English, so I threw them in the garbage. So he went to the garbage can, he took the instructions out, he called one of the English-speaking students in the yeshiva, and he asked him to read what was on the instructions. And the instructions explain how to use the blender. You plug it in, you push the button, what you do put in, what you don't put in. And so he said this, for us, gives us an idea of what the Torah is. The Torah is our instruction manual. So if we look inside the Torah, we should be able to find anything that we need. Okay, so now, how do we find parenting in the Torah? Where is parenting found in the Torah? And I will tell you something that's pretty incredible. Very little parenting goes on in the Torah. So first of all, just to take into consideration, Avraham Avinu was in his 90s when he became a father for the first time. For a wise man, he probably didn't have as much energy, but much wiser. Yaakov was 80. Yitzchak was 50. So all the fathers, were much older when they first started off. One thing to take into consideration. How many times do we see in the Torah an interaction between father and son? Very few times. We see Yitzchak and Avram going up when he's about to take his son to bring his son as a korban. And when he brings him up there, there's a short interaction between the two of them. We see then Yitzchak later on has some interaction with Esav and Yaakov. Again, very small. There's one part where we have at the very end of Sefer Bereshit in Vayechi that we have an interaction between Yaakov and all of his sons, and he talks with them. So what is the Torah telling us? And even more so the mothers. We don't have any interaction between them and their families because they came from wicked families. And they don't have daughters, so we don't see them how they give over to their daughters. So what is the Torah's lesson for us? Look at Moshe Rabbeinu. When does he speak to his children? In the Torah. The Torah doesn't show us ever, any time. Why is this important? Because it's the most important foundation of what it is to be a parent. You lead by example. The greatest parent, the greatest things that we carry on are the things that our parents taught us without telling us. Think about it. Think about the things that really made a difference, the things that were impactful. My father used to say as a joke to me all the time, do as I say and not as I do. I'm sure you've heard that before, right? Don't do what I'm doing. Don't follow my footsteps. What do you mean? You're my example. You're the person that I'm going to look to show me the way. If you can't show me the way, who will? So we can look back for a second and think to ourselves, what great examples do we have, whether it was Friday night and you remember your mother lighting the candles, or whether it was on Shabbos, I remember walking on Shabbat with my father. I remember the walk to Shul on Shabbat. We used to play games. We had an hour walk. But I remember we would walk every Shabbat. And that stuck in my head. And Friday night at my house, I remembered that. Years later, when you start having a hard time and you think about, do I want to keep Shabbat? I don't want to keep Shabbat. You remember that Friday night meal. You remember the chicken soup. You remember the cholent. You remember the things that you remember are the things that our parents did because they led by example. And so what I want to talk about tonight is really what we can do to better ourselves. And it's not hard things. One of my favorite lines is from, he's not Jewish, his name is Jim Rohn. He passed away in 2012. He wrote several books, and the famous question they asked, someone came and asked him is, how did you become a millionaire before you were 30? That was the question. He was a millionaire before he was 30. How did you become a millionaire before you were 30? Listen to the answer. I did the things that were easy, and others around me didn't do the things that were easy. What did that mean? I came to work and I made a call to a client to try to get them to come and make a business deal. And I made a list of things to do that day. things that were easy. I did the things that were easy. And by doing the easy things, along the way, I became a millionaire. Everyone else didn't do the easy things. They chose not to do those things. And that's why they didn't. So really, a lot of what we think and when we look at life, it's a lot of steps of a lot of easy things that become hard because there's so many or so much. But if we take a step-by-step approach and realize we're not talking about major big things that we need to do, and I'll talk about in a minute what I'm talking about, but that a lot of the things that we do are not hard. It's just about making the step into doing the things that are really easy things to do. They're not hard things to do. So I want everyone if you just take a minute to think for yourself, where you saw a great example that gave you, that made an impression on you. And I'll give you an example for myself. And I know you had a Shalom Bayit share, so I'm not talking about Shalom Bayit, but this is a great example, okay? We don't know what Shalom Bayit is at all. We have no idea. And I'm going to explain why. We are influenced by a television and by a society that makes it look like the wife comes home, she's always put together, the house always looks nice, dinner's on the table. Every show and every movie and everything that we watch is all about this beautiful matrimony where life is so beautiful. But it doesn't look like that. It doesn't. Because we have kids and we have life and life gets in the way. And so my greatest example was, I was in the house of Shmuel Kamenetsky and I saw how he interacted with his wife. And it's nothing like what they have on TV. Shmuel Kamenetsky, one of the greats of our generation. Yeah, him and his wife, he'll make a face or she'll say something. Not in a bad way. It's not a disrespectful way. But what we have to realize is that when we talk about Shalom Bayit, it's not what we think that we see. What we see is not really what it is, because that's not really real. So what is real? Right? So we have to, when we look at examples and we see an example between two people, how they interact with each other, and how, or we see how somebody parents their child, and you see their interaction, the interaction between the father and the son, and it makes an impression on you. And you realize, oh, that makes sense. Oh, the child listened to the parent that time, that makes sense. And if we think about examples of where we see people doing these things, and they're actually living those examples, think about those examples that you've seen in your own life. I wrote just a few for myself. When I was in yeshiva, I learned with a man named Rabbi Yasser Rabinowitz. His father was a big Rebbe, the Bial Rebbe, Hasidic Rebbe, and I used to eat at his house. He had 9 kids. By the time he finished saying Hamotzi, it was just me and him at the table on Shabbat. Now for me, I thought that was crazy. The Rebbe's son, the Rebbe was like, he walks in the room, everyone's like following him. He has hundreds of Hasidim. The Bial Rebbe, he's major Talmud Chacham. He's written 40, 50 Sfarim. I'm at his son's house. His son's also major Talmud Chacham. And by Hamotzi, the kids are all gone. And I'm thinking to myself, this is ridiculous. And I asked him one time. I said, Rebbe, I don't understand. And he said, Shmuley, he said, he's talking to me. Shmuley, listen to me. When I was a little boy, you never got up from the table. He told me his father made everybody sit there all the whole time. He said, but you have to know the kids in the generation. And all of his kids, Baruch Hashem, are fine. His children that are married, and they're making Shabbos, and their children are keeping Shabbat, and they're all following. So what is it? What was the lesson? Unbelievable lesson I saw. That we think that we have to fit them into this. If they don't go, it's not going to work. Yeah? But my first heart attack that I had with my son was when after 3 years old, he gets his hair cut, and he didn't wear his yarmulke. He's going to go off the derech. That's it. It's done. And I'm thinking all the worst possible things. I'm going to punish him to put it on. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm a new father. He's my oldest. He's 3 years old. My Avrami. And I'm literally freaking out. And I go to a friend of mine, Rabbi Hiller, and I ask him, like, what do you do? And say, he told me a few stories. One kid put it on a little bit later. And he just kind of calmed me down. And you know what? It just happened one day. He just put it on and it just stayed on. And I didn't make a big deal of it. And I realized that if I made a big deal of it, I don't know what kind of fight would have ended up with it. Maybe I would have sent him off the derech if I would have made him crazy about it. And I didn't. And he ended up putting it on, and Baruch Hashem, he wears it every day. Right? So I learned an incredible lesson. But we have to look around for those answers and find those answers. But what happens is that when we see examples of these things, those are the areas. Find and think. And what I really want to encourage everyone to start doing is search. Look. What are you looking for? And then look for it. Look for where it makes sense. right? Look at somebody who seems to have it right, and then ask them how they did it. Or look at somebody, look at an interaction of somewhere where you see people are interacting. Wow, and both for the positive and for the negative. Sometimes I can see the biggest negative when I see parents interacting with their kids. The worst I have to just say that when parents are picking up their kids and they're on the phone, it's one of the things I have to just. I don't say anything, because if I say something, I'm going to get so upset. Because your kid has been in school all day. Put the thing away for 5 minutes and give them some time. And let them see you and ask them how their day was and ask them questions that are meaningful questions. Okay, but we'll talk about that as we get into it. My point now that I want to make, though, is think about examples of where you've seen it done properly, and you've all seen it. We've all interacted. We've been at a Shabbat table, and we've seen what should look like on Shabbat. We've seen interaction between the father and son. Maybe we had our own interaction. Maybe our own parents gave us that example. Or maybe not. Remember Rebbe used to say, the Mishnah says in Ahavat, Ezu chacham haleimid mikol adam. Who is a wise person? Somebody who learns from everybody. What do you learn from a crook? You learn what not to do. Right? So we can learn both ways. You go to somebody's Shabbos table, you see how they didn't do it right. You go to somebody else's Shabbos table, you see how they did do it right. You can see somebody interacting with their wife, and you see how they didn't do it right. Or you see how they do it right. And then we take those examples, and those real-life examples, and we inculcate them. We make them part of what we want to do, and where we want to go. Okay, I don't want to take too much time on this point, so I'm going to move on. And the next thing what I want to move into for a moment, I just want to ask the question. Obviously, this is a big question, but it's not as big for the direction that I want to go. Okay, we have to ask ourselves, or we have to take a step back and ask ourselves, what are we doing here in this world? And you'll see where I'm going in a second. Why are we here? And really, that question should be a question, honestly, that anybody at any moment in time could say, I'm here because. Because if I can't answer that question really quickly, then I got to really ponder, what am I doing here then? Right? That's got to be an answer that we could really answer quickly. So I'm asking that question. Now spit it back. What are you here for? Why did Hashem put you in this world? Don't say. Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot. But right. So we say one thing we know as Jewish people is we're here because we're here to serve Hashem. And this world is the anti-world to get into the next world. And we're supposed to fill up as many mitzvot we can do to get into the next world. Right? And that's the purpose of being a Jew. Okay. But now I want to go into something else. Okay. Now, take this phone for a second. On the back of this phone, you see that it has this apple over here, right? Now, what is so cool about Apple? What's so special about Apple? So there's a man named Simon Sinek. He talks about this a lot. He talks in companies and in businesses. And he says, what is special about Apple, and what Apple does different than everybody else, is many of us know what we're doing. We're going to work every day. We're making sure that the bills are paid. These are our what's. How we do it. Well, most of the husbands in here probably don't know how the wives make the food every night. They have no idea how to actually make it, right? And most of the wives probably don't know how the husbands actually get the bills paid. Let's just say, right? So we don't always know the hows, but sometimes. But the why, most of us can never answer. Why are we here? Why? And it's a simple answer sometimes to know. What is so special about Apple? They have a why. And that's why everybody buys Apple. Their why is simple, looks nice, easy to use, and that's what they do with everything. And they market their why in everything they do. So, you take an Apple phone, and it's got one button. But it's sleek, has a nice look to it. Fancy. So it's fancy, and it's simple and easy to use. That's their why. And when they hook their why into all of us, I want an Apple. Of course, everyone wants an Apple. Because they do such a good job with what they make. So what is a why? The why is why we do things. And the why we have to ask ourselves is, why do I want to be a better parent? Why do I want to be a better person? The question of why is one that we have to ponder and consider. So, I'm going to start with, you have a handout over there. I'm going to give everyone just a break from me for a minute. And on the first page of the handout, I'm sorry, I just don't have one in front of me, okay, is I want you to take your partner and have a discussion for 1 minute with your partner, just 1 minute, of your why am I here in this world? And then we'll get a little bit more detail, okay? You and your partner, yeah, that's husband and wife. It's a great conversation to have. Brother and sister, why are we here? What is our purpose? What are we trying to accomplish? I'm watching you, Jacob. Yeah. You know your wife?
I'm enjoying your conversation, that's why.
Okay, I'm going to pull everybody back for a second, okay? We'll have a minute again to go back to it, okay? Now, I want to take another layer of this, okay? So now I'm going to take, everyone wears a different hat, okay? So I am a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son, right? I have to call my mommy and my daddy. I'm a principal, I'm a teacher, I'm a person myself, right? We all wear a lot of different hats. I have people that I manage, or people that think they manage me maybe. And so we all wear a lot of different hats, and each one of our hats, we have to answer the question of why. So I'll tell you an interesting thing. My grandfather was a barber in Atlanta, Georgia. My grandfather was from Salonika, Greece, and my grandfather and grandmother on my mother's side were both from Salonika. Unfortunately, most of their families were wiped out. And my grandfather, what was his why? Why was he a barber? And I can answer that question for you like this, without even asking him. And he used to tell this story to anybody who would listen to it. He was in the Holocaust. He was in the concentration camps. He had lost he had already been married with children, lost his whole family, and he was chosen to go to the crematoria. And he was in line, next in line to go into one of the ovens. And he said, as he's about to go in, one of the guards saw him, and he says, "What are you doing with that guy?" And they said, "He's in line, he's next." He said, "No, he's a good barber. Take him out." And they protected him because he was a good barber. And that was his why. When he cut people's hair, he did it because he was good at it. And he felt good about what he did. And so he got up every morning, and he felt good about what he did every morning, and that was his why. And that why gave him the interaction with people. He knew when you come into his seat, when you went into my grandfather's shop and you got a haircut from him, you know you were going to come out with a nice haircut, you're going to feel good about yourself, and then he felt good about himself. And that was his why he did what he did every day. Okay? I'll give you another example. What's my why? I am crazy passionate about education. Like, intensely, insanely, if you really could see what's going on in here when I think about education. Like crazy. Like, these kids that we are educating are going to take over the world one day. Literally. They're going to run the world. Okay, the kids that are running around in diapers, and I've had the experience now of having students that I had, they're this little, and they're inviting me to the chasana. Okay, I had second graders that are going to college now. I have boys that are already having children that I had in yeshiva that I taught. This guy, look how tall he is already. I taught him when he was in 5th grade. Right? And so I see that, and I know that, and so that drives me every day. When I get up in the morning, I know what I want to do. And I know what's really important. And I know what I want to give over. I want to teach these kids how to behave in the world. I want to teach them what it is to have good midos. I want to teach them how to function in the world. I want a kid coming out of Sha'arei school, he's got to know what his direction is. How he's supposed to sit when he's at a Shabbos table. How is he supposed to say please and thank you. And all those things. And all those things that, obviously, academically that I want to make sure. They've got to be prepared. Science, math, English, right? These are all the things that drive me every single day. And every day I'm challenged. There's always things that come up and something else that I have to do differently. And that keeps me going every day. But my why for why I get up in the morning, okay, let me give you my why as a parent. And I'm going to make it so simple. I want them to want me in their life. That's my mission statement. For me as a parent, I'm giving you a diamond right now. Okay? I want my kids to want me in their life. Okay? How many of us don't want our parents in our life? Don't answer that question. Okay? How many of us dread after a week or two when we have to spend a week or two with our parents? I want my kids to want me there all the time. So everything that I do has to be driven and fueled by the fact that I want my kids to want me around. And if I start developing that relationship now with my kids at a young age, then hopefully when they get older, they're going to want to come back. And they're going to want to spend time. And they might not move next to me, but hopefully they'll want to come to me for Yontif. And they'll want to come and call me. And they'll want to hear from me. That's my goal as a parent. That's my why. And that's what I function with, and that's what I try to do. And if I have an interaction that wasn't a good one, then I look at myself in the mirror and I say, okay, we got to change this. And make sure that I don't make this mistake again, because this is the most important thing in your life. Right? If that interaction with my 15-year-old starts going downhill, guess what happens when she's 25 or he's 26? He doesn't want to call. and he doesn't want to talk to you. And then the conversation's like, why don't you ever call me? And then it's too late. Or there's a lot more groundwork that has to be put in. I don't want to ever say it's too late, but it's a lot harder at that point in time. It's very hard at that point. So in the area of why I work, what's my why? As a father, what do I do? What's my why? I got to answer that question. Why do I do this? What makes me function? How do I make sure that I get to the day-to-day? Again, my goal as a parent personally, and everyone might have a different one, is I want them to come back. I want them to come ask me. I want to give them the answers to questions that they know they can come and ask me those questions. That whatever comes up, you know you can come to me and I'm your address. So what I want you to do, and again, I'm just going to give 1 minute because I don't want to take too much time, but at the same time, I like to give a little break in between. I want you to choose one why in your life, whether it's being a wife, a husband, a parent, a child of your relationship with your own parents, whether it's your job. Choose one why and try to develop in one line what your why is. And you guys can do it together as a couple if you want to. Okay, I'm giving you 60 seconds. I know it's not enough time. 60 seconds. Choose a why and try to come up with a one-liner. You confused? Are you? So your why is, first you have to choose what you want. Your job, your marriage, which your why is, what's your mission? So what's your mission? Why is your mission? So for example, as a parent, what's your mission? My why is I want literally. That's my why. No, I can't share one line. I will ask.
There's a lot of push.
I have a question. Have to finish up afterwards. Okay.
You need tea?
If I get everyone back for a second, one question came up, okay? So I just want to clarify one point. My why is, in essence, my mission statement. And I want to have or develop a mission. Not that I'm not telling you to write down 50 missions, right? But what I do want you to do is to think about, when I go to work every day, what is my why? Because let me tell you an interesting study. Ready? Listen to this study that was done. A parent who wants to get home every day to be with their kids, but they just constantly are running late. Love their job, love their kids, love their family. But they're running home to try to make it for dinner or for bedtime. Parent number one. Parent number two, home on time every day, hates their job. Okay? Which child suffers more? The child that has, even though dad's there and mom's there at 5 o'clock, right? But he's not happy with his job. She doesn't like what she does every day. So at 5 o'clock, I got my parent there, but I got my unhappy parent. The parent that's rushing and running late and doesn't always get to see their kid and doesn't spend as much time, that parent has a much better relationship and their child is much better off because mom and daddy are happy. And then that child benefits much more. So when we talk about our why, and the reason I brought up my grandfather, because it's simple as being, it doesn't matter what you do, whether you sell cars or you sell gold or you cut hair. It doesn't matter as long as we find that what we're doing, we're happy with. As long as we find that place of what we're doing and we have the joy in what we do, that's all that we need. The why doesn't mean that I have to change my job unless I'm really miserable and can't find a way to like it. The why is that I love. Thank you.
My husband is the shoe fixer.
Okay, so he says, when he fixed shoes, it was holier than what anybody could do. Learning Torah, tefillah, everything. When he fixed shoes, he took somebody's shoe and he fixed it. How? How is his fixing shoes holier? Yeah, says Rav Dessler. You want to know how his fixing shoes is holier? Because he thought when he took that shoe and he put every nail in, I want this person to have the most benefit from the shoe. I want them to enjoy this shoe. That every step they take into the shoe, they'll have the best usage of the shoe. And because he thought about that, it said he put the names of Hashem and Shemayim, was on the highest level by what he did, just by simply making shoes. So having a why, having a reason for what I do something, doesn't mean that I have to be doing something outstanding or amazing or incredible. It's just that what I am doing, I'm happy with, right? You serve your burger, you give it to the person, you feel good about giving somebody a good meal. That's your why. It's a simple mission statement. I feel good about the fact that I make a good burger and people like to eat the burger. You know, you make a good sale, you feel good about the sale, I feel good. But the difference between knowing that and not knowing it is an easy thing, and it makes all the difference in the world. Because when I realize I like giving people good food. Like my mother's a caterer, she enjoys catering because she likes when people come and say, your chicken was delicious. That's why she does it. Because she wants people to enjoy the food. And if I know that that's what I'm doing, I can feel good about what I'm doing. I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to become bigger and greater and better because I can be happy with what I'm doing right here. But I just got to connect to the fact that I have a why in what I'm doing. I have a reason in what I'm doing. So now I'm going to challenge you as parents to think about, what's your why? What do you want? What do you want to see? And we'll discuss more, obviously, when it comes to parenting. But that's the question that we have to ask ourselves when we want to ask the question of what we want in our marriage. Right? What's the why in my marriage that I want? Of course we all want Shalom Bayit. But what does it mean? What's the why? How am I going to accomplish that Shalom Bayit? Well, that's not my topic. Okay, so I'm just... how am I on time? Answer that call? Okay, so I'm gonna. I just have to manage my time properly. Okay, so I'm just gonna skip on my notes. I'm just skipping a few things that I want to discuss about. I think probably the most important thing is how do we get better, right? What do we do to get better? How do we make ourselves into better people? So we can't be perfect, but what we can do is we can get ourselves in a mentality where we want to grow. Okay, and here's the best muscle that I can give you. Everyone in this room is on an escalator. Everyone. And we're always either moving up or down. There's no such thing as staying in one place. Okay, so let me what's it called? Let me change it. There's a myth that's out there. When you graduate from school, you're done with education. Right?
Right.
Wrong.
That's a myth. That's not true. Right? I think Einstein's line was, don't let schooling get in the way of your education. Right? Don't let schooling get in the way of your education. Meaning what? We constantly have to be trying to get educated. There is no end to the level of education that we can have. And we're constantly on a trajectory and a path where we're growing in whatever area that we can. So my goal at the end of the night is that if you would ask me, what did you do today that made that's going to make you a better person tomorrow? Right? So I'll answer you. For me, for today, preparing this, because I spent hours doing this. Right? So doing this is going to make me a better person tomorrow. Because I had to put my thoughts on paper, and I solidify them, and when I actually sit down and solidify them, other things come out, and I became a better person. Hopefully everyone here also becomes better. But I became a better person by putting all this together. Right? So my goal at the end of the day is, before I go to sleep at night, I could answer the question, how am I a better person today for tomorrow? There should not be one day that goes by that I didn't learn something, have an experience, read something, or do something that doesn't make me a better person for tomorrow. Every day something comes out that I'm better. Not in all areas, because it doesn't always work out that way. But at least I should be able to go to sleep at night knowing that today I'm better for tomorrow. And tomorrow I'm going to be better for the next day. And I'm going to continually grow. And let's realize that that is life. The moment that stops is the moment that we stop. We are constantly growing. Now, as children, we grow like this. As adults, we grow like this, right? But we're constantly in growth mode, right? Our body is constantly in movement, in motion, right? I think the science says that the same cell that you have in your hand wasn't there 3 months ago. You're regenerating new skin all the time. We're constantly in movement and in motion, right? And once we hit our peak as far as how tall we get, then we start to go shrinking, right? But we're always growing in a direction. And we also have to be growing internally in a direction, right? So the Gemara says that Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish were great chavrusas. When Reish Lakish died, Rabbi Yochanan went crazy. Because he couldn't grow in his learning anymore. So he couldn't keep going. Yeah, they asked Oprah Winfrey. Everyone heard of Oprah? They asked Oprah, why do you keep going? She's got millions and millions and millions in the bank, and she's 60-something years old. Like, calm down. No! She said, no, but what am I going to do? Just sit around and twiddle my thumbs? Right? Michael Jordan. Everyone heard of Michael Jordan? He finished basketball, he went to baseball. What? Then he went back to basketball. Yeah, he was on the Wizards. He played baseball for a little while. Then he realized how bad he was. Then he went back to basketball. Right? If you look at the trajectory, we're constantly moving, and we're constantly in some type of motion that we're going, right? There's a speaker that I like to listen to. His name is Eric Thomas. He says, don't think about getting to the moon. Think about what you're going to do when you get back. Right? When you get to the moon, right? What are you going to do when you get back? Right? Constantly in motion and constantly moving, because that's how we grow. And one thing that I think happens, and Einstein I think has it right, is that we think that we don't need to grow anymore as adults. And that is a major mistake. So if you take one thing away from tonight, we have to constantly grow. And the moment that we're not growing, the moment that we're not moving, and we're not getting better every day, is the moment that we're just walking dead. And so, what greater gift can you give your child than your child sees that you're working on yourself every day? That my son sees that I ran late for Sha'arei to one morning, the next day I made sure that I was on time. What greater example could I give him? That I had a bad day, and I told him I'm in a bad day, I'm in a bad mood, and I'm going to make tomorrow a better day. Right? And show him how I grow. And show my children what I can do in my own personal growth. That I'm not going to go to sleep at night without having some type of level of growth. Right? Rabbi Akiva started at 40 years old, and what they talk about is he started so late in the game. Right? But even though he started so late in the game, but he was constantly in the motion of growing and growing and growing and growing. It does no end. Isser Zalman Meltzer, okay, the father-in-law of Reb Aaron Cutler. So the best connection I can make to you is, you ever been to Lakewood, New Jersey? Lakewood exists because of Reb Aaron. Okay? His father-in-law was Isser Zalman. He had a big yeshiva in Israel. Yeah? At the age of 80, he said, now I'm going to start learning. He could wipe the floor with all of us all put together in his own learning. But at the age of 80, he said, now I'm going to start learning. Because he's moving. There's no stop. It's constant motion. We're constantly moving. There's no end to how much greater I can get and how much more I can grow. Okay, so the biggest thing that I want everyone to take out of tonight is that we are going to be in growth mode. That we as individuals are going to be better people. Because the better that we become as people, the better our children will be. Our children see us in growth mode, and our children see us getting better, then what are they going to want to do? They're going to emulate that as well. And they see that message that's important to every day gets better. Every day I'm doing more. I went to a wedding of a cousin of mine. And I met a Rebbe. He's a second grade Rebbe. He's been teaching for 30 years. I went to his classroom when I was first a Rebbe, so about 12 years ago. So I went to his classroom when he was in the classroom for about 20 years. Outstanding. I mean, hands down, probably the best Rebbe I ever saw. And I met him at this wedding, and he's telling me about all the new things that's right before he's going to implement in the school year. Now think about this. He's been doing this for 30 years, right? So what we could do is we could say, I know my job, and I'm just going to do what I do. Right? No. I'm going to make it better. I'm going to be better at fixing shoes. I'm going to be better at educating. I'm going to be better at making that hamburger. Right? When you go to Starbucks, do you know how many options you have at Starbucks? Why is Starbucks so popular? 86,000 options. Google it. There are 86,000 options at Starbucks. Okay, so the next time you go to the restaurant, maybe you'll have green tomatoes and red tomatoes. Right? Meaning that what? My point is that we're growing and we're getting better. And we're constantly moving in a direction that we're not stagnant. Because when we become stagnant, we become stale. And we're not moving, and that means that we're not moving, we're not moving. We're actually going backwards. It's either forward or backwards. We're always on the run. We're always in motion. So, let me leave you with the following idea. It's a good thing I over-prepared. Let me just tell you one thing. I just saw this. I just saw the Tanker Rav, okay? You guys met the Tanker Rav? Everyone met the Tanker Rav? Yeah, the Tanker Rav was here? He called me to his house for a meeting. So I come to his house. He's telling me all the things he's thinking about for Phoenix. Because what I have to do for the mikvah, we have to do this. And then he did a whole list of things. I said, Rebbe, you're on vacation. He comes from New York to here to vacation. No, there's no vacation. He comes here, he starts telling us all the things that he wants us to do to make us better. He's in motion, he's moving, he's constantly growing. So when he's not in New York, he's thinking about Phoenix. And he's thinking about what we can do differently. Meaning the growth mindset is one that's constantly always with us. I'm always, always growing. So, Warren Buffett. Heard of him before? Yeah. Okay. Anybody have any idea how much he reads every day? You ready? 6 hours a day. Now you want to know why he has over 30 billion in the bank? He says it on himself. 6 hours a day he spends reading and studying. Yeah? Studies show that if you spend, I believe it's, if you read one book a month or an hour a day for 5 years, you will become a premier specialist in whatever area you're in. Right? So if I read books on education for the next 5 years, I'll become a specialist in education. There's somebody in Lakewood right now, Aaron Cutler. They said that he's read every book on fundraising. And he is a fundraising guru. He knows everything there is to know about fundraising. Right? If we continuously educate, even in cutting hair, there are different styles and there are different ways. And I'm sure there are different ways to sell gold, although I don't know anything about it. Yeah, and there's different ways to fix shoes. I'm sure there are new ways of doing all the things that we do. And for us rabbis, how we can learn a little bit more and be mechazik ourselves in our learning. For all of us, there's a way that we can grow and get better and learn. And so we've got to jump on the bandwagon. So one is reading. Okay, number two, writing. Nobody writes anymore. Nobody writes anything. You know how important it is to write? I started writing about 2 years ago. It's unbelievable. Anything. So Jason Peterson is a very famous psychologist. He says, you know why it's important to write? Because when you write, it causes you to think. When you write an idea down, it actually makes you solidify that idea. And when you put it from your mind onto paper, that's a thinking process just happened. And I see it now when I watch myself. When I sit and write something, I have it much stronger than I did when it was just in my mind. But we don't think about that. But if we sit and we write something down, how much it helps us. Now, there's no excuses today because we have lectures. We could listen to lectures on YouTube. Is filled with new lectures every day. There's always things to think of. If it's a different recipe, a different sale, a different person that's giving you how to get more business, there are many different ways for us to be able to expand ourselves. So, let me just see where I'm up to. I think I'm going to end off because I don't want to go too far, so I'm going to do two things. Okay, I'm going to end off with a story, and I'm going to give everyone a job. Okay, stories like this. I have a Rebbe in the school. His name's Rabbi Lauer. Rabbi Lauer's father came to visit him. Rabbi Lauer's father told us the following story. He was in Tel's yeshiva, and the Rosh Yeshiva at the time was Rav Gifter. So Rav Gifter asked him once, "What are you doing in yeshiva?" Tishma, Sipur Modyad. What are you doing in yeshiva? So he said, "I'm here to learn Torah." He said, "No." So he knew right away Rav Gifter had something to teach him. So he said, so when he asked him, "So what are you doing here?" He said, "I don't know. What am I doing here?" He said, "I'll tell you. This is what you're doing here. Listen." He says, "You're here in yeshiva because sometimes a person's walking in the forest and they're lost. They don't know which way to go. It's dark and they can't see the direction that they're supposed to be able to get in." He says, all of a sudden a storm comes, a lightning bolt comes out, and everything gets lit up for a moment. And you can see there's a cliff over there, and you can see there's an opening over there, you can see there's mountains over there, you can see there's a river behind you, and you get a glimpse of being able to see what's there. He said, that's what you're here for. You're here to find that glimpse. And the message that I think he was giving, not only to Rabbi Lauer, but that Rabbi Lauer passed on, is that we get a glimpse sometimes. We get to see the direction that we want to go. And some of us have had that glimpse, and sometimes not. And sometimes we need to be sensitive to look for it. But we have to find that direction that we want to go in and how we are going to grow as individuals. I can't grow for you and you can't grow for me. So we have to find that lightning, that direction, where we want to go and what we want to do. Okay, so here's what I want to leave everybody off with. I'm leaving everyone with an exercise. And your partner is in charge of making sure that you do your exercise. Okay? Wives, if your husbands don't do their exercise, then make them sleep on the couch. Okay? Simple exercise. Choose one area of your life. Whether it's being a parent, whether it's being a spouse, whether it's being somebody who's working. One area. Okay? And choose your why. I want you to write your mission statement. And then every night, before you go to sleep, I want you to review for yourself what it is that you did that you grew that day. How did you grow that day? Okay, now I'm going to see you all here in, about 5 weeks from now, after Pesach. And I will ask if anybody could share their growth. And I guarantee that if you follow this in 5 weeks from now, you will have not only something to share, you will see a difference in your own life. you will see something change because you've chosen your why and you're looking for those growth opportunities. And when you have those growth opportunities, you know what happens? Something starts growing inside. And you want more and more and more. And we thirst for more and more and more. And we want to grow and we want to expand. Because as individuals, as humans, we have no idea the capability of what we have inside of us. It's unbelievable the gifts that Hashem has given us. So if everyone would just, I'm challenging you. It's a 5-week challenge. Choose something that you want to do. Choose that one thing, whatever your why is. Choose it. Okay? Write it. And I'll leave you with this. In Harvard University, 3% of the students in Harvard University wrote their goals. Okay? 10 years later, they went back to check those students. They were the top ranking students in money making. The 3% that were in school and wrote what their goals were on paper, 10 years later were the ones that were the most successful graduates from Harvard. Okay, so when we write down what we want to do and we work at it, we will see results. I'm not making something up. You will see that you'll wake up, you go to sleep one night and you realize, I feel good about what I did today. And I want to do that again tomorrow. And I do that for 5 weeks. I'm going to start feeling good and it's going to start spilling over into other areas of my life. And so Rabbi Shmuel Field says, this is the last thing I'm going to tell you. Rabbi Shmuel Field says that when we start working in one area of our lives, and we just take something small, it actually starts to affect all areas of our life. And we don't have to go after the big things. We don't have to work on the things that are really hard. If we just focus on one area, we'll see changes in all areas. Okay, so my bracha to everyone, so we continue to grow together. And I include myself in this. I'm going to work on myself also, that we continue to grow and we see that growth within ourselves, and it just explodes. And we see that explosion of growth within ourselves, and that will be the greatest thing that we can give over to our children. Thank you for having me today.
Ребята, в следующий раз это будет после Песха, самое вино.